Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Uncomplicated by Freshworks. Today I have Kieran Flanagan, who's the VP of Marketing at Hubspot. Hi Kieran,
Hey, Praveen.
how's it going for you there?
Yeah, good. Despite the weather, I'm still in a good mood. It's kind of bad weather as usual in Ireland.
Awesome. So, Kieran is here to talk about something really interesting. We all know HubSpot and we all know how big they are in content marketing, right? So he's going to be talking about how has content marketing evolved at HubSpot. So, Kieran, why don't you walk us through?
Yeah, so I always like things that you can explain in very simple terms because most of the things that work are not that complex. And so at HubSpot recently, maybe over the past 18 months, we've really thought a lot about what is the kind of future of our content marketing strategy. We've been very successful at this thing called inbound marketing. It's worked really well, but we really wanted to kind of quicken the pace in terms of the amount of traffic and users and signups we were getting from content. And so one of the things we thought about is like, what is the mission of our content? Why do we create content? And when we stepped back and we thought about it, we realized the reason we created content was to basically win the hearts and minds of every SMB and mid-market business out there, and increasingly enterprise, and basically, and really to help sales, marketers, and customer success people do their jobs better. And when we thought about that, we thought, well, then the content really has two missions, right? It's split into the mind and the heart. And so if you think about mind content is content you create for existing demand within the market. It means that there people are out there and they are searching for information on how to do things better. And so you create mind content really through a search first lens. So we have this kind of real scientific process that does all of this research and creates an editorial calendar. But all of this content we can create that people are out there searching for. So it's very search first, it's mind content, it teaches you how to do something. And that's why we think about winning the minds through that kind of content. And then winning the heart content is really, what do you stand for as a company? What are your values of a company? And how do you appeal to the type of audience that will benefit from your product or service? And that content is really more emotional. You're really trying to create a more emotional connection with your user, your audience. And that tends to be content that's more kind of video orientated through platforms like social platforms. And so you do it through more of a kind of emotional lens. And that's how our entire content team is split up now. We have a content team that really thinks about nothing else in mind content. How do we really excel at creating content to attract people from search and make sure we are delivering on the things that people are out there searching for? And we have another team that are really thinking about what are the big topics that HubSpot want to communicate to their audience over the next 6 months? What are the values we want to make sure that people recognize us for and share with us? And that content is all in the heart content. And that has worked really, really well over the past 12 months.
Okay. So just one follow-up question, Kieran. So you talked about mind content and hard content. So how do you ensure that there's some kind of connectivity between both of these? Because I'm assuming brand consistency is also one more key factor when you're producing mind content or hard content, right?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. So we still have basically when you create your content in this way, you actually end up with two editorial calendars. You have a mind editorial calendar and a heart editorial calendar. And the way to think about your mind editorial calendar is less and less your blog is something that you're really trying to get people to remember you by. Like, oh, I remember this blog, I'll go back to it. Actually, you think more that your blog is like a library, right? It's a library of content that continually generates traffic because people are continually looking for these things, where your heart content kind of comes and goes. Like you create this content, people go view it on these social media platforms, and over time it starts to decline in terms of views, and you create more hard content. In terms of how we make sure there's consistency, well, everything is really persona based. So we understand who our personas are in terms of like marketers, sales people, customer success people. And so we have different types of marketers. We have sales manager, sales individual contributors. We have customer success managers, people who work on those teams. So we create editorial calendars, both in mind and heart, that are very persona centric. So we look at all of the topics that our personas care about, and we think about what is the mind version of this topic that people are looking for, like all of these different key phrases. We do a lot of research that helps us do that. And then we think about what are the heart type of content around these topics, like the things that we want to tell our audience about. And another way you can think about this is one of the content is pull. So I'm pulling people towards me because there's existing search demand. So I'm pulling in that traffic. And then the hard content is more like push, because you're pushing your messages on people and you want to show them that kind of the values of your company and the things that you as a company stand for.
Okay, got it. So if I have to kind of encapsulate what you've just told, it's about, creating your personas first, and, the mind content is more about making your personas be better at their jobs, and the hot content is basically what appeals to them at an emotional level.
Exactly. Yeah. You start with your persona, you break that into different topics. You think, what is the mind version of this topic? Your mind version of this topic is you do a lot of research, try to figure out, and I would have to go into a lot of explanation in terms of how we create that editorial calendar, but the key things, which is how much search volume is enough volume for you to create content around, right? You probably have some base layer, but needs to have X amount of search traffic, and you need to look at keyword difficulty. How difficult is too difficult? And the other interesting thing about difficulty is, if you add a difficulty score to all of these different keywords, then you can invest more in the content that's very, very difficult to rank for, and invest a little bit less in content that's less difficult to rank for. And what I mean by that is, maybe a keyword that's very difficult, you create video for, images for, all of this different stuff, because you're competing against all of this content that's probably and contains all those things. And so, yeah, you think about your mind content, you create that editorial calendar, you have some different baselines in terms of like keyword volume, keyword difficulty, all of these different things, and user intent in terms of how you create that content. And then you have your heart content, which is, what is the, as you said, the kind of values that I want to
So
tell
true.
our audience about, what is the topics that I really want to push my message towards the audience.
Okay, awesome. I think that was, probably 3 to 5 minutes packed with a lot of insights. Great talking to you, Karen, and I hope to meet you soon.
Yeah, you too, Praveen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.